Okay, welcome back everyone for another video. I wanted to discuss the summer before law school. Like this, I feel like is one of the most anxious parts in the like start to finish journey of law school. Like you have the LSAT, you took it, that was stressful. Let me know if I need to do a video on how to prepare for that. And then like you do the application, that's expensive. No one told me anything about that. And then get accepted, yay, finally. And then we're like sitting the summer before law school, and it's just like I've heard the horror stories. Like, what can I do to prepare? And everyone's like, oh, just just enjoy your last summer of freedom. Don't worry about anything. I feel like that was a lie. I like as I go through law school. I'm currently entering my third year. I wish, I wish there were things that I would have done to be more prepared, and not all of them are like academically centered. You would not believe the amount of things that go into law school beyond just being able to like do the studying and academic part. Like your holistic health and well-being is so essential to the impact of your performance in law school. Like I know that sounds like, yeah, girl, please. And the reason I know that is because that's what I said until I got to law school. Yeah, they gathered me real quick. So I'm gonna like give you some, I believe about 5 or 6 tips of what to do the summer before law school so you can succeed and you can learn from my lessons. Okay, number one, the first thing that you should do the summer before law school is get a health check. So that's like getting a physical, getting a mental health check. If you're already in therapy, good. Like keep working towards those things. I learned that there were so many things like wrong with my physical health and not necessarily mental health, but like mental endurance and strength. So like the brain function and activity, my capacity, those are all things that you need to learn how to build endurance and stamina for. And it's probably better to learn it prior to going to law school and starting. Just a recommendation. But also physical health to make sure you're in good physical condition. For me, I know my winter summer, the first thing I noticed in orientation is it was achingly painful to sit down all day. Like it really hurts my lower back to be sitting down and like you're hunched over like writing notes. That's not comfortable. So definitely get it just a physical checkup, mental checkup, just to have a clean bill of health going into law school. I would hate for you guys to discover something once you're in law school, and then you're like trying to balance all the workloads and also trying to address whatever that issue is. So I highly first recommend doing that just so you have a peace of mind knowing that when you go into law school that you've gone in with a clean bill of health. Okay, the second thing that I recommend doing the summer before law school is building a support system. So luckily I had 2 parents who were extremely supportive of my law school journey. They were heavily invested in what my dreams were, honestly. My parents are amazing. They kept me engaged. They kept me grounded throughout that experience. I was blessed enough to only be like an hour and a half away from my family. So if I really needed the weekend or something, I could just drive to spend the weekend with my parents, get a home cooked meal, groceries, my gas tank filled. I mean, just the luxuries of living. But you just realize how important that it is to have family, and how lucky and blessed you are to have parents that love you. So if you don't have both your parents or one or the other, whoever you call family and whoever provides a safe space of home for you, rely on them through law school. Don't hold up the stress all by yourself. Create outlets, or people to talk to, and create spaces where you can talk to people who are not involved in your everyday life and being in law school, because you get sick of talking about it after a while. And then also, I would definitely say make sure you're invested with a good group of friends. If you have a friend that you're like a little bit skeptical about, go ahead, cut them off. Do not carry them into this next season of life, because you're going places. And you need to be surrounded with people who are invested in your future. And yes, you can have friends who are invested in your future and friends who understand boundaries. So being in law school is not for the faint of heart. So you need friends who understand how difficult law school is, will not be there to distract you. But also, I know this is such an adulting thing, but I would recommend planning. Planning to call your friends. If you don't like that, I understand, but those boundaries still need to be in place. And, I have a very tight knit group of friends that each of them, again, provides something different for me and fulfill me in a certain way in our friendship. And so some of your friends you may talk to once a quarter, some friends maybe once a week, some maybe once a year, and that's okay. Your friendships may be different and they will look different throughout the evolution of law school, but the friends that are true to you will be there when you finish. I promise you. And also be open to making new friends along the way. Law school is filled with people who are going through very similar situations, and I was lucky enough, like, God blessed me with a great roommate, someone who was very much aligned with me, someone who I could go through this law school journey with. So I am forever grateful that I have my roommate. But yeah, definitely be selective in who is in your proximity. That's not just for law school, that goes for in general and in life. So be very selective about who you keep company, just because you're in a very delicate space and you don't have a lot of free time. And so you want to make sure you use your free time well and that you're actually with people that you enjoy being around. Number 3, get into a routine. This is essential. Like, I'm not kidding. This is essential. This is something you absolutely need to do. Okay, let's give you a play-by-play. So, if you have your schedule before you start law school, map it out. Map out when you're going to do your readings for each class, when you're going to study for each class and review the material, when you're going to do flashcards for each class. Or not flashcards, practice problems. My bad. I don't do flashcards. I can't. But you need to look at a schedule and start designing what your routine is going to look like. And once you have it, stick to it. Now, of course, I am not someone who believes in sticking to things by the book. I think you need to plan for life to happen. And so definitely don't over plan your life, but you do need to create some kind of set schedule, because it will guide your efficiency in law school and it makes it easier to maintain life and stay on top of things. So definitely look at your class schedule and plan out those things. Now, that's going to look different for different people. You have to take into account how fast you can read. Do you already know your study techniques? How much longer it'll take you to get through practice problems. So the first 2 weeks of law school, you'll be testing out the schedule. And in that time, you should modify the schedule to see if it's actually realistic to your life. And also, you have to plan out what are actual priorities for you. Some of my classmates, they like to go out on the weekend. They like to party. If that's the case, don't plan to be in the library on Friday. Definitely block out the things that are essential to you and the things that keep you grounded in who you are. and make space for it. So I think that's kind of a misconception. People think that like once you go into law school, like all I can do is law school. That is the most toxic thing you can do, actually. You're still a person. You're not a robot. We're not AI bots roaming around here. Like we do need to actually live life in order to keep that mental sanity. So if you're like me and you're not a social butterfly, definitely you do need to build in rest days so you can reset and like get back at it the next week. Or some people, they take Saturday off, some people take Sunday off. For me, it depends. It's usually like Saturday, I'm gonna go to a farmer's market in the morning. So like that's something I do to get outside, enjoy the fresh air. But I might do a reading that evening. And so it's all about balance and doing what works for you. Everyone is different. The most essential thing when it comes to getting a routine is getting a sleep routine. Do not underestimate your sleep and your ability to sleep. Like you need it in order to function at your highest mentally, and actually have mental clarity and mental retention to remember the information you just learned. It starts with a good night's rest. So definitely for men, they say 8 hours of sleep. For women, believe it or not, you need 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night. Of course, 8 hours is perfectly fine, and that is probably the most realistic number for the law school environment. But I definitely would not be trying to sleep 4 hours a night. A lot of my peers do that. They run on coffee, and like, sure, you'll be up and awake, but you won't be retaining as much information as you could if you got a full night's rest. And also on sleep routines, going back to my first thing with the health check, make sure like you don't have any sleeping disorders. Like if you have insomnia, sleep apnea, any of those sleeping disorders, please get that under control if it is within your ability before you go to law school. Because like I'm telling you that having good sleep is so essential to your performance throughout law school. And then last but not least, get into a workout routine. Now, as someone who personally does not find pleasure in working out, this took me a long time to get together, but I will say it has made a tremendous difference. I personally have been sticking to walking 45 minutes in the morning. Before I do anything else, it's the first thing I do. I get up, put my gym clothes on, and go for a 45-minute walk. To make it entertaining for myself, I listen to a podcast or music. It just depends on how I'm feeling that morning. Sometimes I'm talking to my mom or my friends, but you got to get the movement in. It is something else that does contribute to getting the blood flow and allowing the blood flow to go to your brain. It all helps. I'm not a science nerd. It all helps somehow, some way with your mental capacity and brain performance. Brain performance is essential to law school, especially when it comes to retaining information. So yeah, get a routine and get a schedule. If you'd like for me to expand on anything I said, definitely leave a comment below and I'll try to do my best. The fourth thing that I recommend to do the summer before law school is read a lot. Read any and everything that you can get your hands on. It doesn't matter if you're reading like your fun summer romance novels, if you're reading fiction, nonfiction, whatever. Just read. Just because you want to make sure that you are building the endurance and the stamina to be able to read large quantities of information. Now, if you're like, I want to be a little bit more strategic about this, I do have some recommendations. I one, read the Constitution. Some of you may be taking constitutional law your first year. Some of you may take it your second. But either way, it's helpful to read the Constitution prior to starting law school, just because a lot of things are somehow connected to the Constitution. And a lot of laws consistently revolve around those things. So that is something that you can read and try to maybe practice breaking it down and analyzing. If constitutional law was just reading the Constitution, it would be so easy, but it's not that. So if you ever get to a amendment or an article and you're like, I don't really understand this, be proactive, do further research, look into it. Being inquisitive in law school will get you a very long way. So if there's something you come across and you're like, I don't know what this says, which will happen, that's okay. Research. You have to be proactive about your own education, and oftentimes you have to take matters into your hands about your ability to fully understand a concept. So that's one thing I would read. Also, I'll put somewhere on the screen maybe reading the autobiographies about different Supreme Court justices. So in law school, it's a lot of reading, and it's a lot of reading cases. So if you can read, these are not, what I have on the screen are not all the Supreme Court justices you'll be reading from and reading their opinions, but these are some of the most frequent names that I believe are seen in cases. So if you find a biography, a lot of people read like Justice Scalia's autobiography, RBG, John Marshall, who was like the first like Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He is very foundational. You'll probably only read him more in con law. But yeah, there's all these different people. I feel like it might be helpful to read about the way they thought prior to reading their cases. That might better help you understand the way they wrote and the perspective they were coming from. And so a lot of things that are interesting about law school for me in particular is that I learned that I don't think the same way that other people think, especially justices. You'll find maybe naturally that you disagree, and that is great. Individual thinking and be able to think for yourself is important. Don't ever lose that. But to pass the exam, we do have to hypothetically believe that this person is correct, even if we deep down inside don't feel like it. But yeah, maybe reading some of their autobiographies will help you better understand and prepare for the case law that you'll be reading in classes. And if you want to read some groundbreaking cases, you can, but so the way they're written in textbooks, the cases are chopped up. And so it's not always the full case. It's just the excerpts of what the professors want you to get from that case. So if you want to read case law because you think it's fun, go right ahead. Knock yourself out. My bad. If you don't know how to study, you need to figure it out as soon as possible. I was one of those people, and probably many of you watching were like this too, where you have kind of just gotten by with life thus far. You breezed through college fairly well. You didn't have to apply yourself super hard. You didn't have to sit down and study for long periods of time. You just review your information. You're like, cool, got it. Baby. You are the person who needs to figure out your studying abilities expeditiously. And I'm going to give you like kind of a technique or like a practice go around for you to at least try to figure it out. Because it took me a long time, longer than I would like to admit, to figure out how to study. And this process is called metacognition. And metacognition is the process of thinking about thinking or thinking about learning. And so it's a very internal analysis of how your brain works and how it functions. And so it's very important for you to figure this out. And if you don't figure it out perfectly, it's okay. That's part of growing. It's figuring yourself out, understanding how your brain works. But if you can at least get the foundational parts before you go to law school, you will be all the better for it. I swear. So number one, law school, the teaching style for the most part is the Socratic method. And that means essentially you do the case law reading before you get to class. And your professor teaches you by asking you a series of questions based off the reading. So you need to be prepared and you need to have some kind of general understanding before you get there. Now, I know many of you probably heard the horror stories of like showing up to class, not knowing to answer, and then like, being super embarrassed. That does happen. And that might happen to you. But if you're prepared, you'll be fine. So I think the best way to approach it is to read the information. Don't just read it and be like, oh, I'll ask this when I go to class. No, try to prepare like you are about to be in class and peppered with questions, because some professors might be like that. They might like continuously keep asking you and stick with you for a good portion of the class to answer questions. So definitely be prepared for that. When you read the information, like I said previously, be inquisitive. If you don't understand anything or something in the material, like expand your curiosity and go researching for whatever it is. The Black Law Dictionary is essential. If there are words you don't understand, that's okay. I would keep track of it. If it's a word that you see frequently coming up throughout the class and it's a word that is very a term of art, you'll hear your professor say that a lot. If it's a term of art, definitely make a note of it because it's something that you need to know. And if you're able to use that term of art correctly in an essay, they'll probably collect you some points when you're writing. So definitely be prepared to teach yourself. I know you're like, but I'm paying all this money to learn. They don't care. Yeah, learn to teach yourself and learn to be in that metacognition to understand how you think. So, because I'm such a nice person, I decided to put together like a little practice exercise for those of you who are like, please, like, give me something tangible to do. Find the case Lawrence versus Texas. If you can find it in like the law school format or from a law school textbook or whatnot, try it that way. But if not, read the case Lawrence versus Texas, take good notes, be inquisitive, find out additional information that you can use. And then I'll link below in the comment section a mock lecture from a university teaching on the case Lawrence versus Texas. I believe it is a civil and criminal lecture. I might be wrong. Anyway, watch the case or watch the lecture, take good notes additionally of what the professor is saying. Now, you've already written your notes from the reading. Do not double write additional information. Be strategic about what you're writing out. If you are someone who likes to type on a computer, do that. But if you're someone who's worried about your memory and retention, I highly recommend writing out everything. I call it writing into memory. And that's essentially what you would do. But the benefits of typing is, especially if you're not someone who types very fast, get in the habit of learning how to type, because when you're in an exam or an essay, you are under time constraints. So the ability to know how to type quickly and efficiently and accurately is very important. So if you want to type your class lectures to exercise that muscle, you can do that as well. But research that the case, read the case, watch the mock lesson, and then take all that material, synthesize it into one document or outline. Outlines are very popular in law school. Take all that information and put it into one outline, and then either create flashcards, do a very thorough outline, rewrite your notes. Some people, that's the only way they retain everything. Or you can do what I do, which is my personal favorite method, which is called the blurting method, and this is for memory retention. So like, let's say I got this sheet of paper with all my notes that I did for this video. So let's say I have this page of notes of information that I learned from class. I will review that. I will set it aside. I'll take a blank sheet of paper and write out everything that I remember from that sheet of paper that I was supposed to be retaining. This is a good exercise because it gives you physical indicators of where the holes in your memory are. And so I find it helpful because you can see something tangible about, okay, this is where my memory issues are. How can I fix it? I think the blurting method is great. Now, I don't have a practice essay to give you to actually test your memory and your abilities. I'm not a law school professor, sorry. But this exercise will give you at least a very, very, very tiny taste of what a lecture is like. The other things that you can do, if your law school offers lectures for students, like visiting students to sit in on, that is also something you can do, just so you can get a taste of what a professor at your prospective college or university law school teaches. That will help you as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please, if you have any questions, comments, or if you're another person in law school or you have additional tips, please find community in the comment section and share all the information that you have. I want all of you to succeed in law school. If you have any additional questions for me, I will respond in the comment section below. And yeah, so please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. I don't know what I was gonna say. Goodbye. Let me turn the camera off now.